it is. It's the radioactive pop to Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance Blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Pop.
Can you believe that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Blog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kenzie Paige, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Blog. What is it called again? Podcast. Period. Or you're ugly. You're empowered. Approved. All right.
Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance. God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast, with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hey, that's your cue. You're on, stupid. Hey, welcome to the Alliance Guys, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and each and every Thursday, we also come to you as the Alliance Guys in hopes of spreading our message of wrestling superiority. Or at the very least, we talk about the things that we like. And in Jaden's case, sometimes he talks about things he doesn't like the National Wrestling Alliance. Willie Bowen already in the house with the Tyrus joke of the day, saying when Tyrus takes he causes shipwrecks like Titanic and the Edmund Fitzgerald. I don't know what that blank was supposed to be, but I that sounds like a funny joke, Willie. I think you're onto something there. Steve G is in the house. We know that some of you got Anub is here. What's up, everybody? We are going to be getting to a lot of different things. Unfortunately, our guest that was supposed to be joining us this week was going to be former NWA World Tag Team Champion Royce Isaacs. Unfortunately, scheduling conflict prevented him from joining us tonight. So it'll just be Jaden and I discussing all things pro wrestling with an emphasis on some of the territories and some of the NWA action that's coming up, as we have seen a plethora of events unfold for the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, our pal DKM cannot join us this evening. He is on assignment. We hope to hear back from DKM next week. And as promised, my pal Jaden is here with me. Jaden, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's a little quiet, so I might have to come back out and come back in. Sometimes it gives me a problem when I first start coming in. But I'm doing well, and I can't wait to talk NWA and talk other wrestling with all the great fans out there.
Can you hear me okay, or are you saying it just sounds quiet on your end?
It's very quiet on my end, and sometimes that happens when I first sign in. I have to go sign back out and sign back in. It seems to fix it. So I'll be right back, all right?
Okay, yeah. So Steve G's asking in the chat, do you know when and where the Limelight title defense will air? Well, the last Limelight title defense that I'm aware of is when he defended against Pretty Peter Avalon. Now, I know he's wrestled some for Reality of Wrestling. I know he's had a few matches in Puerto Rico, IWA Puerto Rico to be exact. So when is he going to come? When is the next title defense? I don't know. To be quite honest with you, some things are looking I don't want to say anything negative, but it seems like United Wrestling Network is more or less on hiatus again, which is disappointing. I know that they did the 2 TV tapings at the Thunder Studios. I know there's a lot of moving pieces in the United Wrestling Network. I do have a ongoing dialogue with David Marquez. Of course, I don't know if you guys are aware of the news that came out earlier today, but one of the, I guess he was like the main creative, Daniel Hill, has left the United Wrestling Network, presumably on good terms. I spoke to him today. It was his decision to leave, but he does not plan to be gone from wrestling for long. I think he wanted to move on from the United Wrestling Network. So who knows where he'll show up next. you know, as I sit here and ponder the idea of creative talents in wrestling, and Jaden, I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Yeah, much better now.
How important is creative when it comes to independent wrestling? You know, obviously, something like the United Wrestling Network, it's an ongoing episodic television. That's their plan anyways. And of course, the NWA tries to do the same thing. How important is that creative role when it comes to creating episodic television?
Very, especially when it's television. Let's go to Star Wars. I know we have tendency to go there a lot. The creative direction can really make or break anything when it comes to any kind of production out there. And a lot of people think they know how to be good writers or bookers or whatever. Immediately, if you know, I know Dr. Zirconium, he gets 20 people a day that says they want to be a writer for him, and he immediately, when they say they'd be a writer, he understands they don't have an idea what they're talking about. Because you know, Dr. Zirconium, he doesn't have writers, and old school wrestling has things called bookers, and people don't understand how important a booker is. Matchmaking isn't booking. How and why and how long and where it goes is a huge aspect to wrestling out there. And a lot of independent promotions need to keep it simple, but when you have television, you have to be able to not only enthrall them to watch your television product, but then to get them to come to your live events too. So at least that's the ultimate goal for television, unless your goal is just to get paid to do television only. So yeah, it's hugely aspect, because you got to be creative. As a lot of people are starting to realize, throwing a bunch of matches together doesn't necessarily give you great ratings and great attendance and great pay-per-view buys. You have to have a story behind it. The story is the most important thing. And just ask Cody. And
you made me snort, by the way.
Yes, I noticed. But it is very, very important to have somebody good and creative that actually knows how to build the interest in not just with the wrestlers, but the championships, the events, the broadcast. Everything in there has something to need to be built up to, and a good creative person knows how to do it all.
Yeah, and you know, and when it comes to at least Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, they have multiple people working in their creative. I don't know if people are aware of this, but Pretty Peter Avalon is part of the creative as well. And yeah, you know, I feel bad because I like Danny Hill. We had a good relationship with him here on the podcast. He actually did an episode with the other Alliance guys, and I'm sure he's going to land on his feet. In the meantime, Championship Wrestling is kind of just on hiatus, which is, I mean, it's understandable because again, there's no such thing as unlimited financing. Even if your father's a billionaire, at some point you have to be able to produce a show and make money doing it. I don't know what the status is of Championship Wrestling. Like I said, I've talked to Marquez. I know they're doing another co-promotion event with West Coast Championship Wrestling. I think that's what West Coast Wrestling Company, WCWC. They're based in Northern California. They've been doing some joint promotional events at the old stomping grounds for Championship Wrestling at the Irvine Improv. So I assume those shows will continue to happen. But as of right now, I don't have a timetable of when Championship Wrestling will return. But if you see with Dave Marquez, he's posting a lot of, he's sharing stuff that you'll see where he's promoting events that are happening for MLW. He's promoting TV tapings for Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. He's promoting events that are happening with Reality of Wrestling, which leads me to believe that there's some sort of partnership or some sort of working agreement with those companies. And perhaps we'll see a return of those champions, the United Wrestling Network champions, sooner than later. Then the other thing, too, real quick, Matthew Underwood says, was that a dig at Cody? I think it was quite the opposite. I think Jaden was saying that with the right storyline, you can make a star where Cody – what's changed about Cody since he's left AEW from the WWE, except for where he's working? Still basically the same guy. The promos are pretty much the same, right, Jaden? Am I
yes
wrong?
No. I don't think they're exactly the same. They have a lot more focus now, I've noticed.
Yeah.
He was a little unfocused, and think he spent too much time in AEW workshopping the promo instead of just cutting the promo.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it felt he still does feel very rehearsed, but he feels a bit more natural now and less acting, and more like this is, emotional and feeling. He's a little bit more his father, I guess, is the best way I can say it now. He's showing a little bit more of those tendencies.
Absolutely.
Also, presentation and quality of opponents, because as much as you can be great, if the person you're against isn't great and the build-up isn't great, nobody's going to care anyway.
And this is more for the audience, because I really didn't watch enough of AEW when Cody was around to know, like, who was his rival? Fuego del Sol? Sammy Guevara? I know he lost the title to Brody Lee before Brody Lee passed away. But like, I don't know, I can't even tell you who his biggest feud was while he was in AEW. I guess against the fans or the Rubber Chicken, right? Because it didn't seem like the fans were too big on him while he was there. Matthew Underwood says Sammy and Darby. Okay, that's fair. MJF. Yeah, okay, I vaguely remember that too. And like I said, I never was a big AEW fan, and I've been to more AEW shows than you would expect for somebody that doesn't follow the product. But Willie keeps throwing the jokes at it, catch my attention. Jake Howe, Rolando Freeman was Gary Coleman standing on different strokes.
Actually, I heard he was Peter Dinklage's stunt double, but
that works too, right? Willie Bowen also asked, hey, Jake Howe, what happened to the other Alliance guys on Wednesday nights? Dave, Scooby, and Jeremy didn't come on. Well, the short story is that I think for now, the show is going on a hiatus. Now, I haven't really fully discussed this with Dave, Scooby, or Jeremy, but to be quite honest, I know that Jeremy has been working a lot of extra hours lately, and it's been difficult to get time for the two of them to get together to do the show. It might come back in a different format. It might come back as a pre-recorded show. It might come back as a live show, depending on how Jeremy's work schedule goes. No animosity, no love loss. I still very much respect Jeremy and Dave Scooby and everything that they did for this channel, for the live stream, and they're still very much welcomed as part of the Alliance Guys family. But as for right now, I think they both have decided to just put it on hold until their schedules are a little bit more available. Don't be surprised if you see some of those guys pop up on this show while we figure out what's going to happen next. Yeah, there's no animosity, no love loss. Those guys are still valued members of the Alliance Guys family, and hopefully their show can come back soon, because I liked it too, guys. I would listen to that on my way home on Wednesdays, and obviously I miss Tim too. Tim was a big part of that show, and Dave and Jeremy were trying to hold it together, but it's asking a lot for someone to do a full hour show by themselves, and it's a lot easier to do it when you got a partner, right, Jaden?
Yes, it's a lot easier when you have somebody else to carry you.
Well, that's why I normally have DK here, but he's not here this week, so I had to settle for you.
Yeah, you need the grumpy old man. He brings the over 90 crowd.
He brings that demographic.
Yeah, I have an idea for Scooby if he's listening.
Let him rip.
He should get a hold of like bookers for different promotions and start a show called Sharpening the Pencil.
Oh shit!
Where he talks to different bookers about booking ideas and why they do things that they did.
That's actually brilliant. Sharpening the pencil. I love it, dude. That's really good, Jaden. And I know you have good ideas, but that's really good.
I just literally just thought of it when you were talking about it, because I knew none of this before.
Huh. Yeah, I last week I actually invited Scoob to jump on the show with us, but Thursday nights are a busy night for him too. So that's usually the nights he's working. He does a lot of on the road work too. So I don't think he's like home on Thursday nights. Otherwise, I would invite him to be a part of the show too, because Scoob is a great dude. I like both those guys, and I hope at some point they can get the show back going. But until then, you still have the pre-party and the Alliance guys to kick around.
Scooby does all his content for his OnlyFans on Thursdays.
First rule of the OnlyFans is you do not talk about the OnlyFans.
Apparently, you never know anybody with OnlyFans because that's all they do is talk about it.
Fair. Hey, can we talk a little bit? First of all, did you see the new shirt?
Yes, it's in heather right there, gray heather.
It's a heather gray. It's also available. I got rid of the white, so it's available in ash. It's available in black. It's available in red. And because a certain individual asked me, it's now also available in royal blue.
You got rid of the white. What is that? Some kind of reparations you're doing?
I think there's enough white T-shirts in the world. It's time to spread the colors around and have more, a more viable color scheme. In fact, I hate white wrestling T-shirts. You go to a wrestling show, you start sweating, and then next thing you know, your body's kind of showing through. No one wants to see that. You got a dark color. No one can see your sweat stains. It's a win-win for everybody.
When I was managing, I forget. I think I might have had Patch or somebody in there. I'm afraid who I was managing at the time. But it was during a Force One event. I know we had this fan called the Rowdy One, and the Rowdy One used to go to all the different events. And he always tried to be the most obnoxious and the most loudest, and always tried to be the center of the show. And one time he goes, "Nobody could ever get me. I'm the best. Nobody could shut me up. I could talk and I could have everything going, and nobody will ever be able just to keep me quiet." So I kept thinking about that while I was back there, and I found the bottles of water in the ice, and I went to the very bottom and grabbed the coldest one down there. And I opened it up, and soon as he was out, he starts opening his mouth. I drowned him. I just drenched him with the bottle of water. It was like the worst wet T-shirt contest you ever saw. And he had nothing. He had no comeback. You could see he was steaming, but his mouth was shut. And I mentioned it. I'm like, "Hey, everybody! All it took is some water to shut down the Rowdy One. Maybe that's why he never bathes." And yeah, so I always will have fond memories of the worst wet T-shirt contest ever.
Oh, jeez, that sounds awful.
Yeah, we all lost that one.
Steve G just asked if the hat comes in red. Currently, no, but nobody's asked for a red hat. And I bet I could get a red hat. Tell you what, Steve G, if you're thinking about ordering a red hat, put it on hold, right? Don't do it yet. Let me see if I can make a red hat. And if I can make one available in our shop, I will do that just for you. So
maybe with the new logo.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about putting the new logo on the hat. What do you think? Is that a good? I love that logo. Do you know where that logo, where I kind of stole the idea from on that one?
I'm going to say... I'm trying to think of something funny that's not political. I have a bunch of things, but then I always have to edit myself because I don't want to get demonetized.
It's only a 2-hour-long show.
I'm going to say the clouds that Cam yells at.
No, but good close call. Before the iconic NWO logo that they went with, remember Hall and Nash kind of came in as the outsiders, and this was very much what the NWO looked like, as the O around the globe was the O, and then the A was the N. So this kind of pays homage to the NWO. Not that this is a big NWO type thing. I just thought it looked kind of cool and worked for the Alliance Wrestling. So, if you guys are interested in this in a hat, we can make that happen, especially if you want something like a red one. Let me know, and I certainly can look on that. Noob, I love that idea, and that's something that we can probably do next week, but up until about 2 hours ago, I thought we were going to have Royce Isaacs on this show. So I had to take a swerve to the left to kind of come up with today's show. So we'll do it another time. I think that's a great idea, and it's something that I would love to hear DK's comments on as well. But we'll get to that at another time. And that is, Jaden, if you didn't see it, Noob posted a tweet to us that doing a top 10 wrestlers that we think would get signed to either the WWE or AEW who are currently working in the NWA. And I think there are quite a few wrestlers on the roster that would make a lot of sense for both companies, but that's for another time.
I think we should also, if we're going to do that, the top 10 people that have the AEW and WWE have stolen from the NWA. And by stolen, I mean signed them to much bigger paychecks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we could just go back to, 2020 and we lost about 4 of them right there to AEW. All right. So let's look. One of the things I did want to talk about is, of course, we try to talk about the upcoming news and events that are happening with the NWA. And I guess this is, it's not new news, but we've known for a while that NWA Chicago is coming up this Friday night, May 3rd. That's tomorrow. And we know that there's going to be at least 2 world title matches on this event. And look at that flyer. Is there somebody on that card that looks familiar to you, Jaden, that you might not have seen in a while?
Well, there's this one dude that's all the way to the left. It looks like he's about to crap himself.
What's that? Which one?
The guy, there's EC3. He's dead center on the left.
Dead center on the
goofy
left.
smile that looks like somebody stuck a finger that doesn't belong.
I don't know. That guy I'm not familiar with. That's not who I was asking about. But look at the posters. Tell me if there's anyone on there that you might recognize. Used to be quite a regular with the NWA.
Well, I see Steve Boz is there. I always like Steve Boz.
Yeah, Steve Boz is back. I don't know if he's back, but Steve Boz is going to be there. Yeah, so I'll just tell it to you. Marche.
Yeah, I don't really know the roster that well.
What's that again?
I really don't know the roster that well, so they all look like they don't.
Well, you remember a nice guy by the name of Marche Rocket always had a smile on his face?
Oh, that's up top?
Yeah, up top. We haven't seen Marche Rocket in a while, so it's good to see him back in Chicago with the NWA. Of course, Natalia Markova is there. Daisy Kills is on the card. We've got the World Junior Heavyweight Champion on the card. But let me real quick go through what some of the matches are that are booked for this event. The aforementioned, well, that's not the match I was looking at, but that'll work. We have Magic Jake's Gauntlet match. I don't know any of these people besides Magic Jake. Daisy Kill will take on Steve Boz. That should be a fun match. We also have Bryan Idol taking on Alex Rico. We have the women in action when La Pescadilla and Natalia Markova and Maggie Lee all step into the ring with each other. And I guess my computer is not cooperating with me because there was two more graphics that did not, for whatever reason, make it on my screen here. And as I stall to talk about them to try to get them up, the first one, of course, is the junior heavyweight title match. Charlie Adams, I think that's the guy you said who was crapping himself.
Yeah.
He'll be taking on Joe Alonzo, so he probably should be crapping himself. The newly crowned World Junior Heavyweight Champion, Joe Alonzo. And also the World Heavyweight title will be defended in a triple threat match. Mario Pardua, who we've seen a handful of times on Power, and Mims will both be challenging the World Heavyweight Champion in Highland Park. Any thoughts on that matchup, Jaden?
I hate triple threat matchups. I really do. It happens. I know sometimes it has to, but it's just why? Why does it need to happen? They can't just get one more guy.
Well, the weird thing about it is there was supposed to be the match that there was supposed to be a match between Mims and Mario Pardua. Mario Pardua was initially supposed to have a title match against EC3 at the first NWA Chicago event. EC3 was unable to make that event, and Mims and Pardua wrestled for the number 1 contender spot, which Mims won. So you would think that would be the match, EC3 and Mims, but evidently Pardua and the front office at NWA Chicago politicked and somehow turned it into a triple threat match. So it kind of is what it is, but I guess the best thing is that the title's being defended in another territory that hasn't been seen in quite a while. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, sweet home Chicago.
Sweet home Chicago. Another event's happening. Now, this isn't exactly a territory, but it's kind of like a territory. We talk about Coastal Championship Wrestling, and they refer to themselves as the last territory. But World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico also refers to itself as El Último Territorio, which means the ultimate territory. And they're calling it honor versus treachery. And they're welcoming some of the stars from the NWA to this event. Now, oddly enough, and here's the actual event poster that I ended up finding later. Oddly enough, the person who is on top of the World Wrestling Council is Chris Adonis, former NWA National Champion, former #1 contender to the 10 pounds of gold. He is currently the World Wrestling Council World Champion. But also on this event, we see members of Southern Six, Kerry Morton and Silas Mason. We see the NWA Women's World Champion, Kenzie Paige. Also Natalia Markova. And Bryan Idol, who is currently the World Wrestling Council Television Champion. And although he's not featured on this poster, Homicide also will be in action in Puerto Rico. You know, this is the second time that the NWA has partnered up with a Spanish-speaking wrestling promotion in the last 2 years. Of course, last year it was when the World is a Vampire tour in Mexico, and this year, in about 2 weeks' time, it'll be in Puerto Rico. What are your thoughts about the NWA partnering with World Wrestling Council? Do you think that's a good fit, and do you think that this is just a one-off or something we might see more of?
First of all, I hope Ray Gonzalez has nothing to do with the company. Second, I always thought Ultimo meant the last, like the Ultimo Dragon means the last dragon.
Yeah, it's exactly. So when you say the Ultimo territory, you're saying like the last territory, which is also
what the ultimate.
Did I really?
Yeah, that's what I was.
I know better than that. I know Spanish and I know Ultimo Dragon. I know better than that. I don't know. It means the last wrestling promotion, which is the same tagline that Coastal Championship Wrestling uses, that tours very frequently in the Florida market and beyond.
But I like some of the wrestlers. I know they're there. I was hoping I would have saw Mekowolf listed, but it's cool. They're one of the oldest territories promotions still in existence
from 1973.
Yeah, they originally were part of Titan Sports. People don't realize part of the one of the original owners was Gorilla Monsoon. And
that is the same promotion that gifted us the Colon family, of course. Carly Colon and Primo Colon, the brothers, the cousins, who have all kind of stepped into the WWE over the years. But this will be kind of interesting. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, also, I'm more interested to see. There'll be an NWA wrestler versus Chris Adonis, because I know he's not exactly a favorite right now with the current NWA regime, and I think it's probably it's reciprocal.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. Like, there's one guy on the roster who I think if you put him in the ring with Adonis, I think they would have a good match, and I think it would be on very friendly terms. That would be Thom Latimer, who's going to be there, because Latimer and Adonis, although they had faced each other a few times in the NWA ring, I know that they still remain close outside of the ring. It's interesting to me because I see like if they end up doing it like a NWA versus World Wrestling Council show, instead of like, hey, it's Homicide versus Kerry Morton. Like, I have no appeal in seeing NWA matches on a WWC card, but if they go full crossover, full, WWC versus NWA, I think that could be a lot of fun. I mean, do you agree, disagree?
I don't know how well the current NWA is established and the stars of the NWA are established in Puerto Rico. Yeah. I don't know if they have. I don't know if they get the CW app.
Technically, Puerto Rico is part of America, so it should.
You would think so, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, though, I'd rather them build up the NWA first before they just do it, so that then there's a reason to have a versus. But again, who knows? That maybe the CW app may be the most popular app in all of Puerto Rico, and they might love NWA booking there and NWA wrestling there. I mean, So who knows? I don't have the answer to that.
Now, I don't think these shows will be shown on the CW app. I don't think these are taped for the NWA. But as I just put in the chat, there is a link to the World Wrestling Council's YouTube channel, and it looks like that they release content on the weekends, both on Saturday and Sunday. And so it looks like they're roughly about 46 minutes for each show. So we might actually get to see those matches down the road on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed to that channel, maybe you might want to consider subscribing and catching those NWA events.
We're also, at least in my cable system, I guess it still is. They no longer have the cable, but back when we did, there was a channel that played WWC in the upper 500-600s. They used to play it in Spanish.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And
yeah,
it
was called WWC Lucha Libre Superstars or something like that.
And Willie Bowen wants to remind us of the bad times. I lost respect for WWC Pro Wrestling in Puerto Rico on the way they handled the murder of Bruiser Brody. Like that, yeah, I think the whole world lost a little bit of respect for them back then. However, they're still thriving. They're still promoting wrestling events. And although Mecha Wolf had previously worked in World Wrestling Council, like you mentioned, Jaden, I think his affiliation with Puerto Rican wrestling now is IWA Puerto Rico, the rival company there. Of course, those aren't even his home promotions. Lucha Libre AAA is his home, with NWA being his American home, I guess. Paladin wanted to know if WWE is the Harvey Weinstein company. Is that true?
Do you want my opinion?
Sure.
I think Vince McMahon was the Harvey Weinstein of professional wrestling. Right now, they're going out of their way to change the dynamic and the public perception of professional wrestling in the WWE. In fact, they're not even calling it sports entertainment anymore. If you notice, they're calling it professional wrestling.
Yes.
And they've really done a lot to change the negative outlook of the brand. And I think, honestly, the best thing in the long run for the solidarity of the of the WWE is getting rid of Vince McMahon and just forcing him out with the Janelle Grant thing. It's a shame that everything happened, and they're still going to get a lot of negative publicity for it. But in the long run, I think it's great, because look how much better the television production is. Look how much better the ring announcing is. Look how much better the commentary is. How much better the storylines are. The wrestling's still secondary, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's just everything else is so much better right now, and the public perception is so much better. And Triple H doesn't have the dislike that Vince McMahon did, so it's harder to be that evil empire that they've been painted to right now. I know that a lot of wrestling promoters like to go after the big guys, and it's us versus them, or the underdogs. But you have to have a hot product to be the underdog, and then you have to have somebody willing to fight for you. And well, some companies have really loyal fans. I don't think any of the things going on currently have done a lot to gain any other fans interested and built up that core fan base. So I don't think they're the Harvey Weinstein of the WWE anymore.
Yeah, I think at one point you might have been accurate in depicting the WWE that way. And as Paladin pointed out, Stephanie was named for covering up her father. He also said Triple H was a backstage politician. He knew what his father-in-law was doing. There is still going to be fallout from all of this. Now, what TKO decides to do in the interim, right now, profit is up, attendance is up. Everything seems to be going positive for the WWE. They just might keep Triple H in power and just let it stay like that. But wouldn't be surprised if there is turnover in the front office from the WWE as well. It just depends on how far this court case what dirt they will really unravel. And hearsay and gossip, I don't think, is enough to take a position away from somebody and realign the leadership of the company, I think there's got to be some hard, cold evidence and people willing to testify to that before TKO is going to make a change. Because again, record-breaking attendance numbers for WrestleMania, record-breaking live streams and merchandise sales, and I'm not saying that the WWE is infallible, but I feel like they're doing a lot of positive things right now, and I don't think TKO is going to come in and change anything until there's a reason to do that.
I also would be surprised if some of those people mentioned, or maybe other people leaked this information to get Vince McMahon out.
Yeah,
because you might know something's going on, doesn't mean you have the ability to change it. And
yes.
Triple H went out on a heart attack and got his brand taken away, the NXT and everything else. And Stephanie immediately stepped away once her father came back.
Yes.
I have a feeling that those information was leaked, and that's why the trial and everything was able to go through, and stuff was able to go through. I don't know this. I just suspect it based off of little things I heard and know about and stuff like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if later down we found out that some other people in the company as a reason for the downfall of Vince McMahon. Well, at least escalated it happening.
Paladin again points out that Nick Khan is selling his stock, and the thing is, there could be many of reasons why Nick Khan is selling the stock. One thing that
it's all-time high.
Yeah, what I'm thinking is is it ever going to be worth as much as it is right now? I'm a former WWE stockholder. I bought the stock back when it was like $12 a share, and I sold it when it was like $80 a share, and it goes up and down, which like all stocks do. But right now, they cashed in on the Saudi Arabian money. They just inked a new deal with Netflix. They inked a deal with CW. They re-upped their rights for SmackDown on USA. I mean, they are so leveraged right now, and with TKO behind it, I just don't see that momentum slowing down. But I also don't see how much bigger it can get. You know what I mean? How if right now they're hitting record profits and they're doing all this record-breaking business, at some point it's gonna come back down. There will be some sort of normalization of the of ticket sales. Nothing lasts forever, and especially in an entertainment business, you could be on top one day and the next not. And I don't feel like the WWE is in jeopardy of losing any of their amazing fans or the amount of money that they're generating. I just don't think it's going to be completely sustainable forever.
Here's the part too that people don't realize: that stock for Nick Khan, he's a member of the board of directors. That stock doesn't change his voting power, really.
No.
He's going to be paid to continue to do very well to what he was doing, and even if he does sell all of his stock, it's maybe just for financial reasons, because again, it doesn't hurt his position in any shape or form, and he has other ventures that he does outside of the WWE still too, and he may just be looking to invest higher into that. McMahon sold a lot of his stock to create the XFL.
Yeah. A lot of people forget about that.
So it does, things have to be financed, and sometimes stock's a good way to finance it. Even they always say don't spend your own money.
Yeah. Well, and then DKM, who is, I guess he escaped the insane asylum, his assignment, mentioned that was disproven, that he hasn't registered to sell his stock. He said Nick Khan isn't selling. Regardless of what motives or no motives, if he were to sell the stock, I don't blame him, as it is a very good market right now for the WWE. I think I looked the other day and it was back up to $80 a share. And if you own hundreds of thousands of shares of the WWE stock, like some of these guys do, that's great money. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's back away from the WWE because, again, this is an NWA podcast, and we do talk about all the wrestling. But, I mentioned May the 11th when the NWA and Puerto Rico have a date down in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. We also have another date for the NWA. That will be the Exodus Pro, which, again, is also happening May 11th from the Treelawn Center in Cleveland, Ohio. The first match that, I guess the main event for that night is the 6-man tag team match with EC3 teaming with Ashton Day and Richard Holiday to take on Carson Drake and the Slime Balls. Also on that night, we will see Tiffany Nieves defending her Mission Pro Wrestling Championship against Kelsey Heather. I don't know what to make of this match because I don't follow the brand close enough, evidently. But the custody of the Groovy Grizzly, Man Bun Jesus, and a partner of his choosing versus the Stevens family, which is Aaron Stevens and that guy, who, again, I don't really know. And then also on the car, crowning the new NWA Exodus Midwest champion, Cal Hero versus Dante Casanova. So, again, another matchup. Another NWA event. And then this kind of ties into the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I don't think you heard about this yet, Jaden, but Exodus Pro announced that it's starting a formal relationship with Mission Pro Wrestling, and it's going to result in a women's title tournament, which will start June 15th at Mission Pro Summer Loving and will conclude on August 24th at NWA's Exodus Pro Journey 2. Now, in the past, personally, I've thought that a working relationship between the NWA and Mission Pro would make a lot of sense. Having a pipeline of such good quality women wrestlers direct to the NWA made a lot of sense to me. It seems like that pipeline might go through Cleveland, Ohio before it actually connects to the NWA. What do you think about that? A territory of the NWA working with a non-territory member. What do you think of them potentially crowning a champion that can serve over both Mission Pro and NWA Exodus Pro?
I'm sure anybody's so willing and able to work with Ohio Valley Wrestling, which is not an NWA territory.
Yeah.
As long as you're able to work out and be able to respect both promotions and be able to both be able to gain something out of that, then I think that's great for everybody.
I agree with you. We've seen a lot of talent. Again, we mentioned that pipeline. We did see, obviously Thunder Rosa was the biggest name from Mission Pro that debuted in the NWA, and she would go on to become the women's world champion. But also we would see Genocide, who is a former Mission Pro tag team champion. We saw Maddie Rinkowski, who's now just Ren for the WWE, who came through Mission Pro to the NWA as a former women's tag team champion for both companies.
When are they going to hire Stimpy?
What's that?
When are they going to hire Stimpy?
Jeez, Stimpy, you idiot! Then they would they'd go on to bring in the Renegade Twins, who have left both Mission Pro and the NWA, but for a brief time held both the Mission Pro and the NWA Women Tag Team titles. And right now, we have the King Bees in Charity King and Danny B, who are also Mission Pro and NWA Women Tag Team Champions. So it seems like that alliance has already kind of been in place for a while, but now we're starting to see maybe a more formal alliance.
Sounds like they're just a nice little feeder system.
Yeah, well, I mean, even a feeder system, I think, would make a lot of sense. And the first match announced for that tournament, again, it kicks off on June 15th, which is only next month, but it feels like forever from now. Summer Loving, they have Avery Bro versus Queen Uju. I hope I'm saying that right. And that'll be the kickoff of that Exodus Pro tournament to crown a new Exodus Pro Mission Pro champion.
That just flows off the tongue.
No, I hope they find a better name for it. And, maybe they call it the Atalanta. Atalanta, am I saying that right? It's not Atlanta, it's Atalanta. All right.
Yes.
So that, I mean, again, I think that's pretty cool for the growth of the NWA. If that means Mission Pro becomes a territory for the NWA at some point, that would be, I think, a really a cool thing for both the NWA and Mission Pro. We've seen, like I said, we've seen a bunch of their former talents and current talents get the call up. But Matthew Underwood said, could that mean Thunder Rosa isn't long for AEW? I don't think that means that at all, to be quite honest, Matthew. I think Thunder Rosa was running AEW with her then husband, Bryan. And I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't really know their relationship status. Bryan was always a good person to work with. He helped to get Thunder Rosa on this show. And I have nothing but respect and admiration for him. He currently is the one that runs Mission Pro. And if Bryan wants to come on this show, and maybe I will reach out to him now that there's the direct pipeline between the two territories, maybe we'll have him come back on here and talk about it. But as far as I know, I don't think that's going to impact Thunder Rosa at all in AEW. Mission Pro has continued to run ever since she left, and I don't see a problem with that. She makes appearances for them here and there, but of course her focus is on AEW and her success there. And then Paladin's talking conspiracy theory about the injuries, kayfabe, but I'm not going to get into that, Paladin. We've done that enough times. And then getting back to more of the territory stuff, and Jane, thanks for being patient with me about all this stuff. Of course, we know that the next is that the right graphic? Nope. Now, let's see. Where is my other graphic? It didn't see. You know what? I need to hire a better production guy because evidently I'm not cutting it. We have 2 more shows coming up soon for Joe Kazana Promotions. They also have a show in May, and that is going to be the Showdown at Sunbright. That's Friday, May 10th. And we see the stars from the NWA. Silas Mason will be there. Obviously, he is the Joe Kazana Promotions Southeastern Champion. We see, of course, the Country Gentleman, but Jack Stain also featured on the poster. Sal, the Savior, or whatever they're calling him now. And then, of course, the Heat Seekers, Chris Silvio, the Stew Crew, and, of course, former Ohio Valley champion Freya the Slaya, all on that poster. That takes place on May 10th. And then they've already announced their next event, which will be Back to Basics on June 14th, which leads us to the NWA Back to the Territories on June the 11th. And, of course, June 1st, and that is their TV tapings. And a lot of action coming up. Of course, the Crockett Cup is in May. So things are really kind of rolling for the National Wrestling Alliance. Do you agree?
Yeah, actually, good. It reminds me of the old days when we used to have all the little guests, and Saturday mornings we would talk to various different people throughout the territories. Maybe we should see what we can do to get some of those people on to talk the NWA with you and hype all those different events. Obviously, Joe Kazan would be on, but it'd be nice to maybe get the Heat Seekers. See if you can maybe get them on and they can talk about their history in the NWA. And
let me write these down. These are good suggestions. Keep them coming.
Yeah, and then Natalia Markova. She has obviously something to do with the NWA and Exodus Pro, I guess, or one of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
All those territories look alike. That's not actually true. But I am really upset, though. The one thing that really has me upset is that you have Richard Holiday and EC3 on the same card, and they're not against each other. Richard Holiday's incredibly underrated. All the attention always went to MJF and to Hammerstone, but he is just as talented as either one of them. And I think he's a free agent right now. Why isn't Billy calling him up?
We don't know. Maybe he has. I was lucky enough to see Richard Holiday challenge Jordan Clearwater for the United Wrestling Network championship. Actually, I'm sorry. That wasn't a title match. Excuse me. I got it twisted. He had challenged Jordan Clearwater, but he had to wrestle Willie Mack. So his match with Clearwater never happened. but he did wrestle Willie Mack, and it was a great matchup between Willie Mack, who I think the world of, and Richard Holiday, who, I've always heard of his potential, but finally got to see it in a ring. And it's not like Richard Holiday doesn't have a history with the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, we know that he challenged Matt Cardona for the 10 pounds of gold. He actually filled in for an injured Davey Richards. I believe it was 2 years ago when Cardona was champion. So that would have been a fun moment for the NWA if we saw Holiday and EC3 for that title. And my only hope is that this 6-man tag match, which doesn't seem to on the surface make a lot of sense. Carson Drake, who we've seen in the NWA recently appear on Power, we've seen him team with Mims and Dax Draper, but had nothing to do with the Slime Balls. And the Slime Balls are, they're a tag team. We haven't seen a lot of cohesion between the three of those guys before, so maybe this matchup is just setting a foundation for what could be a feud between Richard Holiday and EC3. That's my hopes anyways, because otherwise I don't even get why you put him in this match. You're going to book this guy to show up to your event. I don't think he lives in Ohio, so you're playing for a plane ticket and you're flying him out to this event to be in a 6-man tag. It makes almost zero sense to me.
Holiday also recently, a couple of years ago, challenged then champion Ray Jazz for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship too. And out of all the tag teams there are in wrestling, the Slime Balls are one of them.
You are correct, sir. Yes, sir. And again, I don't mean any to discredit those guys. They're young, and do they have potential? Sure. Why? Of course not. I mean, they could do anything. They have potential, but as of right now, they're not a team that I'm excited about. Just between you and I, we watched Joe Kazana Promotions. We got to see, the Heat Seekers. That's a team I want to see more of in the NWA, hopefully at the Crockett Cup. We saw the Stew Crew, again, another tag team that I was very fond of watching them in Joe Kazana Promotions. I would much rather see those guys get these opportunities in the NWA. And that's, again, not to take away from the Slime Balls. It's just they're not a team that I'm super excited about.
I hope that also means that we're going to get some more Joe Kazana Promotions TV shows, because that was fun calling them. It's a shame they cut off after like 3.
Yeah, and it was a fun show. It wasn't a hard watch. It was a very boom. You could watch it, and I'm not saying it's the same, but very similar to our friends over at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators, who you can see that match between Richard Holiday and Ray Jazz for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Championship by following that link and subscribing to that channel, where they're only 15 subscribers away from hitting 1,000. So if you guys haven't done so yet, please, this is just a cheap plug for my friends over at Dawg. Go subscribe to that channel and watch their content. So many matches have been released lately, and it's just banger after banger after banger. And then there's a few matches with Dangerous Dave Dahl, but you take the good, you take the bad, you take it all there you have.
It's Daredevil Dave Dahl, first of all.
What did I call him?
Dangerous. I think Devin Storm's coming after you now.
Maybe. You know what it is? It's the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I was looking at the YouTube page when I said Dave Dahl. So yeah.
Also, while you're there, there's a lot of stuff that's been updated recently. I mean, there's a match between for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship against Breaker Moranta, champion, defended it twice in this month, and both matches are up there against former WWE Ring of Honor and OVW superstar Tank Tolan, and against Nick Batti. And so those matches are up there, plus the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship, as Dylan Mesh and Daredevil Dave Dahl take on 2-on-1 in a handicap match versus Vanilla Six for the Old School Empire, and then later against the World's Sexiest Tag Team of Dad Bod and All Natural Adam Matthews. We're calling him Dad Bod Jr. too, but
That's what I heard him as. And then, of course, the return of Eric Martin, no longer Busky. Marvelous made his. Was that his debut? Marvelous, his debut for Dog?
No, Marvelous has been around for a while now, and he wrestled recently. His match is coming up, I think, tonight. If you watch tonight, it goes live. Marvelous's match from the Rowan University
versus Nick Robles.
Nick Roble.
Roble, excuse me. And then, of course, the other matchup that I haven't watched yet, but I need to watch is Goldie challenging for the World Wrestling Grand Prix match against Chris Steeler. That should be a very fun match, as a lot of respect for both those guys. I got to see both those guys at a Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiator event last year, and I'm very excited to watch that match. I haven't been able to get to it yet, but again,
that was a very, very, very good match. And there's still other things out there. There's Wet Brett Waters of the Monster Factory. His match is still coming up. You also, for some reason, since it's been debuted, it's either been the first or second most popular match on the YouTube for Dog. It's Valerie Verman and Clara Carralic. I can't say her last name. Carreras. You're the Spanish person. You know this stuff.
It was I was just looking at
Carreras, something like that.
Carreras.
So that's also on there, and that's been really dominating the Dog YouTube page for a while. And former WWE Cruiserweight Classic member and extremely talented wrestler in Anthony Bennett, Ant Bennett, who's now going by Tony Bennett.
Perfect.
Yeah, coming out with his little martini glass.
Nice.
He's going to be debuting soon for Dog. He just did a debut for us. His match will be coming out, and there'll be a lot of good stuff out there. So you can see some good wrestling and Daredevil Dave Dahl just by following the YouTube. So make sure to check it out. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. More coming out. I know there won't be any more coming out until after the one day this Friday. Then I'll be coming back out on Monday because of apparently things that go live on the weekend never do well.
Yeah, I could have told you that. So, again, putting content out all the time, like for whatever reason, and I just from my own personal experience that it seems to content hits better when it's released at midnight, like Monday through Friday. Weekends, for whatever reason, just doesn't seem to hit.
There's also a match with Ty Thomas and Rhett Titus that came out recently. It was a good match, and there's a couple of promos with with Rhett Titus and Vinny the Fixer that also dropped in shorts.
Why? And maybe you can't answer this because obviously Dr. Lawrence Zirconium isn't on, but why isn't Rhett Titus just a regular member for that Dog roster? I know he
lives in Virginia. That's the easiest way to say it.
Perfect. Say less.
Yeah. It's a 9-hour drive he took him to get to the Rowan College of Burlington County.
The last wrestler that was a Dog champion that was from Virginia was Damian Wayne, and I know him being in Virginia got a lot harder to get those title defenses in the Dog ring.
He was actually pretty easy because he was willing to travel, but Rhett's getting booked everywhere too right now.
Yeah,
he's been working for the AEW Ring of Honor and AEW regular proper, and he was getting booked through the NWA, and he gets booked a lot of places. So getting him on things, there's where the advantage of like that Wednesday or Thursday events is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where it comes easier because he was able to, it's a lot easier to get him. And so I know that's one of the reasons he was contacted, and he's good friends with Dr. Zirconium. They go back way back. So, he's very good friends with him, and I know him very well too. And he's always welcoming Dog. It's just finding the right spot and the right time. But after that match against Ty, I'm going to spoil this a little bit. That match was really good, and I think that put him in line for either a Dog Championship match or a WWGP Championship match in the future.
I mean, both those guys sound like a good time. I know that Goldie having won the title. That guy's got a lot of potential. He's still young, and there's a lot of great potential there as well. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. The thing about dawg, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, is the history that it's been around. It's not like this didn't just open up last year.
14 glorious years now.
Yeah, and Breaker Morant, the first 2-time champion, he's out there, helping to try to get the title more recognized, and who knows, maybe in the next year, maybe we'll see some of these champions travel a little bit, not just in dawg, but back in Mawa and other promotions that have been affiliated with.
Yeah, the Breaker's got a match coming up in Mawa against Kurt Robinson, and I know for a fact that there's been talk with Goldie defending the World Wrestling Grand Prix Championship at New Japan Strong. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but there's at least been some embers enough, hopefully, to start that fire.
So, look, I'm not trying to brag here or anything, but I have a wrestling show to go to every Saturday in the month of May. So this Saturday, I'm going to
It's gotta be May. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to a Lucha Libre show in Cathedral City, which is in my backyard. It's a 30-minute drive. Then next Saturday, I'm going to New Japan Strong at the Ontario Arena, the Toyota Arena. And then the following Saturday, I'll be in Dallas with our good friend DKM in Forney, Texas. You got to be horny and Forney for the Crockett Cup. Then the Saturday after that, going to be in Mexico, in Tijuana for Lucha Libre, Luca Libre out there. And so I am very busy this May.
That's really good, and hopefully, like I said, Goldie will be able to defend the WWGP Championship on New Japan Strong. And I'd love to see him personally. If you can find a way to arrange this, I'd love to see him defend the WWGP Championship against Mecha Wolf.
I mean, that would be amazing. And I'll try to talk to Mecha Wolf and see what his booking availability is. We've never talked about his booking schedule, so I don't know. But
he's still based out of Florida, right?
No, he's out of TJ. He lives in Tijuana. It's very interesting. He's a very interesting character because he is an American. He was born in Puerto Rico. He lived his whole young adult life in Puerto Rico, moved to the U.S., already trained, already had debuted for IWA Puerto Rico, already wrestled for World Wrestling Council, came to the United States, moved to Chicago, was where he broke in at, and was working in Chicago. And then I don't know if you remember this, but he actually worked for the Sheik's old NWA Fusion with the Florida territory that the Sheik was running as Mr. 450 back in the day. And he had his opportunity with the WWE. Then he started working with AAA, started hitting up some of the Lucha Libre promotions, and kind of bounced around everywhere. And now he's literally living in Tijuana, and he's on the road all the time with Lucha Libre AAA. When he's not wrestling, has this band that he performs with, Monster Wolf. And then the guy, he's literally everywhere. He was in Canada wrestling just a few weeks ago. He was out in LA. He's in my backyard. I don't even know he's out here because the guy's just so busy. And I got to see him in Tijuana on Saturday. He did 2 shows that Saturday, one in San Diego, one in Tijuana. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the proximity of San Diego and Tijuana, it's literally like a 30-minute drive, 15-minute drive, depending on where you're at. So, I mean, that guy is taking advantage of all the opportunities that are presented to him. And again, that's such a cool dude, such a high-class act, and somebody who I definitely would love to see wrestle for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators anytime.
Yeah, hopefully they're in the area and that can be worked out. Especially another one would be Danny Limelight. I know he has some family, I believe, in New York. And I know that
just said he's having trouble with the chat, so I'm not sure what's going on, but sorry. I'm trying to troubleshoot while I'm doing the show.
That's fine. I was thinking, I know he has some family in New York. Danny Limelight's another person I'd love to see in dog sometime in the future. I always put his name out there to Dr. Zirconium too. Usually doesn't make me shut up, but that's a different story.
That one, I think I can help you make that one happen more than the other. Danny just messaged me a few minutes ago, was like, so I don't know, did you see the two, some of the footage that we've seen of this Ugandan wrestling promotion?
That's all this off-ground wrestling. Some of those guys are better than half the wrestlers I've seen in the area.
Yeah, and I don't know the other guy's name, but they're former WWE guys, Mansur and the other guy I don't know. They showed up down there and did some shows with that group. And I think, for one, that's such a culturally impacting moment for the Ugandan people who might not have traditional pro wrestling. They don't have a wrestling ring. They wrestle in basically mud. And those two guys, former WWE guys, went down there. And another indie guy who wrestles mostly in on the West Coast between Vegas, California, Gregory Sharp, he showed up there as well. I don't know if he was there at the same time or if he came later. But, like, again, really cool moment where genuine wrestlers are showing up there to kind of help bring attention and focus and notice to this it's basically a brand new sport for them. I don't believe there's traditional pro wrestling in Uganda. And Danny Limelight was like, "Hey, if you sponsor me, I'll wear an Alliance shirt while I'm wrestling." Sure. What are we looking at price wise? Oh, it's $1,000. Yeah, sorry, Danny, can't help you out, brother. Good luck.
They've definitely come a long way since Kamala and the Botswana Beast.
Say that one more time.
The Ugandan wrestling's come a long way since Kamala and the Botswana Beast. Kamala too. That's
Kamala, the Ugandan giant. I guess he was the last star to come from Uganda, right?
Well, I guess Kamala too. They call him the Botswana Beast, but he also used to wrestle under the name Uganda.
All right. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I know you didn't watch NWA Power. I did.
Sorry to hear that.
And I'm going to say this, man. It was a decent show. I'm not going to lie to you and say it was awful. It wasn't. There was some bright spots about it. There was some. There's things I like about the NWA Power show, and of course, a lot of the characters. I'm digging the characters. Again, we saw the kids in the slime balls. Mentioned the slime balls earlier in the podcast. They're fine. I still think they need some time to develop in the tag team wrestling. I think they need to develop more working in the studio, and I think it's great that they're with Exodus Pro and getting their reps in regularly on some of the independent promotions. They're not a team that I would consider for the Crockett Cup, not because that they're bad. I just feel like they need more seasoning. Now, I'd rather see them in the Cup than, say, the Blue Meanie and Aaron Stevens. But I feel like a team, again, like the Stu Crew or the Heat Seekers would make a lot more sense if you are booking for the Crockett Cup. The kids, similarly, again, not bad. Just I still feel like they need more in-ring time. The matchup was good. It was fair. But, again, nothing blew me away. You don't need to take me to Slimeball City. Next up, we had we had the
take me down to the Slimeball City where the wrestlers are green and their moves aren't pretty. Sorry.
Matthew Underwood said the kids are very interesting prospects. Jackson Drake can go, so can the other guy. I don't have a problem with those guys. Again, I don't have a problem with the slime balls. I just think that they need more seasoning, right? And you've got this very dynamic roster, this huge growing roster in the NWA. We haven't seen the new in a while, and I know that they're not NWA regulars, but those guys would love to be in the NWA.
Now?
Did I say the new? Yes, the now. Excuse me.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Real Sent to Slaughter, they could be back.
Sent to Slaughter. I mean, they were a lot of fun. And Dan Maff and
Sean Donovan.
I was gonna say Sean Donovan, and I knew that it wasn't right. That's why I stuttered.
It is Sean Donovan.
It is Sean Donovan.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I was right.
Yes.
Did you say Tom Donovan?
I said Sean.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
I got him on your show. That's all I know.
Yeah. Well, I know you got him on the show, and he was great. And I was gonna say Sean Donovan, then I thought you said Tom Donovan, and I was like, oh, that's
No,
not
it's Thom Latimer. Thom Latimer and Sean Donovan. That's the new tag team you just created.
I'm sure they're both approve of that. And then Matthew Underwood brings up the Dawsons and the Andersons. And yeah, I mean, again, if we're booking for Crockett Cup, I would definitely like to see the Andersons. I don't even have a problem with the Dawsons showing up with their history with the NWA. But as far as that matchup goes, I wasn't. It was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't anything to write home about. The next matchup I think was pretty good, and that was basically
Who won?
I don't even remember now. Thanks for making me look bad. I believe it was the Slime Balls, but I could be mistaken. You're gonna, now the chat's gonna be like, dude, did Jay even watch it? Yes, I watched it. I just didn't find it particularly interesting. The next matchup was like the last man standing match between former U.S. tag team champions, the Country Gentlemen. Now this matchup had a lot more meaning behind it. Of course, over the last few weeks, we've seen a lot of animosity between, Joe Kazana's boys, AJ and KC, with the returning Anthony Anderson. When Anderson left the NWA, he left on bad terms, and they weren't exactly. When he left, it was kind of a surprise. They lost the titles, and then Anderson was gone. There was some backstage murmurs, but that seemed to be squashed when Andrews returned. Not Anthony Anderson, that's somebody else entirely. So when Anthony Andrews returned, he aligned himself with Idol Mania Sports Management under Austin Idol, and had teamed with Zion, and they were essentially just making the life of Joe Kazana and his boys very difficult. The announcers had mentioned multiple times that Anthony Andrews was like a cousin to AJ Kazana, and actually the kids were the ones that beat the Slime Balls. But getting back to it, so AJ Kazana and Anthony Andrews had this matchup where the stipulation is the person who wins can vote the other team out. Basically, they could pick who would leave the NWA, which meant that Zion, Austin Idol, or Anthony Andrews all were on the chopping block when AJ Kazana won. Of course, AJ ended up picking up the victory, and it was a pretty good match. I kind of felt like it would have been a little bit more violent and a little bit more hostile, considering that the animosity that the two shared. But it felt like maybe a little underwhelming. And of course, they fired Anthony Andrews, who now effectively is gone from the NWA. I still like the idea that they brought him back. I still like the idea that they tried to do business even after he left at what many considered to be bad terms. But ultimately, the Kazanas are still intact, and I'm sure AJ and KC are gearing up for the Crockett Cup. Is there anyone that you would suggest out of the NWA, out of those three, Zion, Austin Idol, or Anthony Anderson, who would you have kicked out? Anthony Andrews.
Austin Idol. Can't say. Yeah, Austin Idol. Give him a roofie colada or whatever it is he was drinking that day and push him right out the door.
And Roswell says Zion. Matthew Underwood brought up something about this episode that Media Mike suggested to him, and he said, this episode shouldn't even been an episode. With the plethora of commercial breaks, they could have run an hour for 4 episodes of this taping of Hard Times, or made this episode full of promos. That's something that we've kind of lost since they've left YouTube, is the amount of promos. We used to get, Kyle Davis at the front where,
the podium.
Yeah, the podium. Thank you. We used to get Kyle Davis at the podium, or we'd have May in the back with the talent. and they've really kind of gone away from that. I don't even think I've seen May in a while on the show, and Kyle Davis has done a few interviews, but again, it doesn't feel like it carries the same weight, and there's not as many promos. They certainly do fill the show with commercials, and if I have to see any more of these T-Mobile commercials, I'm going to lose my shit.
Is it on the app?
Yeah.
Yeah, the commercials are the same. I used to watch the CW superhero shows, the DC shows.
Yeah.
From the Arrowverse. And they basically play the same 4 commercials, sometimes 2 of them. Then there'll be like a couple other whatever in a row. And yeah, it adds nauseum.
And it's a bit much. That brings us to the main event, which was a steel cage match. I was all about this. I was happy to see it. This was a fun match. You have the 2 young bucks in the not literal young bucks, but the Southern Six. You had Alex Taylor and Kerry Morton. Congratulations, by the way, to Kerry Morton, who just graduated from university with 2 degrees. The whole time that he's been wrestling for the NWA, he's been going to school. In fact, when he was in Mexico, he had a competition he was supposed to be. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Kerry was a collegiate cheerleader, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all. He's a professional cheerleader, not professional, but collegiate cheerleader, and he had to take time away from that event so that he could wrestle in Mexico. So it was cool for him. Cool that the university was able to let him do that. He was on a scholarship for his cheerleading prowess, which is translated to his pro wrestling career. Anyways,
they should they should start teaming him up with Nick Nemeth.
Or Kenny Dykstra. Is he still around?
I don't think Kenny Dykstra is still around. Who was the other one? He was one of the most talented initially.
Mike Mondo?
Mike Mondo. It's funny how Mondo was initially the most talented, and then ended up being actually everybody in the Spirit Squad was talented. I can't say anything against them, but Nemeth and Dykstra definitely got more attention, I think, on that.
Nemeth, he is a great wrestler, and I don't think we give him enough credit. His time in the WWE might have not been decorated in championships, but he did win the big one.
He won multiple championships, multiple-time Intercontinental, United States, Tag Team, and he was the World Heavyweight Champion.
And I think for him, just even to survive in the company for as long as he did, as the kind of wrestler he was, he wasn't an over-the-top promo guy. He wasn't he was a good, solid wrestler, and I feel like on any roster he makes the roster better. But he wasn't the traditional look and feel of what you think as a WWE champion. I mean, in his time, I think he won the title from Alberto Del Rio, right?
Yes, and I think he was a multiple time champion. He also beat Edge for it, I think, too.
Okay, so yeah, and again, enough people have seen his praise, but Nick Nemeth was certainly. I would love to see Nick Nemeth in the NWA, but he's also everywhere. He just won the AAA Mega Championship. That's the same title that Jeff Jarrett used to have when he
beat Alberto Del Rio for it.
He did. Oddly enough, he did, and that was the title that Hijo de Vajingo had before he got injured and had to relinquish the title. So, yeah.
I always thought Nick Nemeth was the illegitimate child of Kurt Hennig.
The illegitimate child of who?
Kurt Hennig.
Yeah. Especially when he dyed his hair that color blonde and had the curls to it. He looked like the spitting image of him.
So, yeah. Anyway, that was the main event. Who was it against? They
went up against Murnox. And it was in a steel cage. Now, it was an entertaining match to a degree. There's some stuff in it, of course, typical NWA. You had a very solid match. You should have left well enough alone. Ricky Morton got involved by handing powder to Kerry Morton. Again, I'm still okay with that. They're the heels. They should cheat. They're facing 2 of the biggest men in the NWA, the Crockett Cup champion winners last year. And if you're trying to build momentum for the Crockett Cup, a win over Murnock certainly would suit you well to get an opportunity. But during the course of the match, when the Southern Six had the upper hand, mini wrestler, I think his name is Eric Smalls, came out, and he got involved, one by punching Ricky in the testicles, and then later doing a dive off the cage onto Carrie and Alex. And again, I like a little bit of realism in my TV. Now, I know he's still jumping off the top of a ring is going to have some impact on it, but I would imagine that two guys like Alex and Carrie could have caught him and probably slammed him into the ring. I don't think it should have taken them out of the match the way it did. And to me, that took me out of the match. It took out the realism of the match. And what we had like a very violent, bloody type match, then this kind of shtick kind of like ruined it for me. It just kind of soured it for me. And then to make things worse, Rolando came out to neutralize Eric Smalls. And again, just stupid stuff. Like, why did they have to sully this match with this kind of chicanery? Eventually Murdoch's gets the victory. Trevor and Mike Knox did crossbody dives off the top of the cage, which were pretty cool. Not off the top of the cage, off the top rope, which were pretty cool in and of itself. And then the Murdoch's wins when Trevor walks out of the ring bloody, beaten, and bruised, but victors nonetheless. And it's pretty cool to me that you had a team like Murdoch's working with these young guys, Carrie and Alex. And I feel like that's a good way to build momentum. Matthew Underwood says, why was it in a cage match to begin with? If you remember from Paranoia, they had a tag team match where it spilled to the outside and there was a lot of outside interference. And that's why they put it in cage. There was a little bit of build to it. I will give the NWA credit. They didn't just throw it in the cage. They had a matchup at the last TV tapings. I don't know if it was Paranoia or the TV tapings that kind of led to this matchup.
So wait a minute, though. Then they tried to have them in a cage to keep interference away, and then they had a couple of midgets involved?
Yes.
Did they at least walk through the bars?
No. Again, yes, what you just said, you had a cage to eliminate the interference, and there was still multiple examples of interference, which means that the NWA is very ineffective at protecting its wrestlers from outside interference.
Yes. And he also hit Ricky Morton in the testicles, you said, right?
Yes, he did.
That's nuts.
Which, that made me laugh. Because watching, I don't even want to guess how old Kerry Morton is at this point, sell a nut shot. And he did the whole, scrunched up face and slow motion grab the balls. It was great. I like that. That was fun.
That's how to keep him from having any more kids.
You would think so, but I'm not going to hold my breath to that. And DK wants to remind us that there were no bars. It was a chain link so that they didn't have the opportunity to just get underneath the cage.
It'd be funny if they just walked right through because they're so short.
There's a gap just wide enough for them to fit through. Yeah.
Sometimes those cages put extra gap, and they cut like a wire to cut the camera in. Maybe they could walk through that.
So I don't know that we talked about it at length last week. I mean, I guess we mentioned it, but what did you think about seeing Tony Khan in the draft room for the NFL draft in neck brace, selling the injury that he received from the Young Bucks and Okada the night before? What did you think about seeing that? And do you give him credit for it, or is that a mark behavior?
Here's the thing. If with a spike pile driver on a guy who's about $1.07 soaking wet, if he was really going to do what he needed to do for good business, he wouldn't have been there. Or they just would have waited to do the angle until, after the draft. I understand he probably just wanted to put himself over and put himself so he could be seen on the neck brace. But also he was smiling and turning his head and not once showing any kind of pain. And then he just cut a promo. They had him on ESPN. He cut a promo where he talked about the Harvey Weinstein of WWE and stuff like that. And he was obviously not selling the injury at all, other than wearing a neck brace you could buy at CVS.
My favorite part of that is during the draft, somebody said something to him, and he turned his neck and looked at him and was talking to them. And you're like, wait. If you're gonna be in a neck brace, you gotta at least do this. You gotta at least change the whole body.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's corny. It got people talking about AEW. The promo that he cut on the NFL Network with Rich Eisen afterwards about Vince being, or WWE being the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, I think that was bad for business. As somebody who he personally talks about tribalism and how the fans are so anti AEW, but then he says some stupid shit like that. And whether it's true or not is kind of irrelevant. You take an opportunity when the whole world's looking at you, and they're looking at, not just the Khan family, but they are looking at AEW, and this is a great time to put the pitch out there. Like, hey, we do wrestling. It's more exciting. It's not as traditional that you might be used to, but it's more exciting. It's more like watching a comic book movie. You could have sold it in so many different ways. Instead, you tried to bury the competition with an insult that really just was very kind of tone deaf, especially when there's allegations in his company about certain talents who are involved. Not a good look.
Yeah. I'm really shocked he compared AEW to Pepsi. I heard he really likes Coke.
That's probably why he went with Pepsi instead of Coke.
Yeah.
I think Steve G said, have you seen May's new series on Music Mayhem? I believe that's on Anthem. And no, I haven't. I got to be honest, I don't watch a lot of cable. I have 2 young daughters, so like very rarely do I get to watch anything that I want to watch on TV. Although I did start watching Fallout on Amazon Prime, and that's really good. Jaden, what are you watching right now that's not wrestling related?
I just caught up on the Bad Batch. That just had their series finale, and I've been loving the X-Men 97. That's been great. I'm looking forward to Saturday with both the Tales of the Sith, and I believe if it's not on Saturday, right afterwards, the Acolytes, Star Wars Acolytes, comes out debut soon on Disney Plus. So that's going to be cool. Looking forward to the Cobra Kai. That's coming close, I think.
Yeah. I was watching the Echo series on Disney Plus.
Very good.
It's good. It's been enjoyable. The problem is because there's a lot of subtitles. You really need to focus on when you're watching it, because if you're not focusing in on it, like, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss things, and you're gonna have to rewatch it, which is a bummer. And my kids, they don't do well when I watch like violent stuff. They're like, we're out of here. We're leaving the room. So I tend not to watch it while they're around.
That was very good, though. I very enjoyed that. It was better than I was expecting. I've been trying to catch up to the Marvel Universe in order, not in the order that it came out, but the order of the storylines, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's I forget where I am now, but I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to catch up. School sucks. It's way harder to get your doctorate.
Yeah. Yeah. How many days a week are you in school?
I'm either working, helping Dr. Zirconium, or I'm in school. And technically it's 2 days, Friday and Thursday and Friday. But I go from 12 noon to 8 p.m. with only 2 10-minute breaks in between. And then I also have like some online classes I got to take that I can take anytime since I get them done by a certain time. And I also have tons of homework. And Wednesday is a lot of homework that I'm putting off doing until the last day before it's due.
Well, then I want to say thanks again for taking time to be a part of this silly little podcast. I hope it's as enjoyable for you as it is for me. I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early tonight because we didn't have DKM to yell at the clouds. And unless you want to talk more about what you're watching on TV, I think that's a good place to end it for the night. What's next for Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators?
Well, May 25th, the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators heavyweight champion Breaker Morant will be defending against Kurt Robinson. There's some things in the works. A charity reached out to Dawg, and they're going to hopefully go with something with that. And we recently found out that there's a warehouse in town that currently does some stuff that, if it could work, I don't know, because I know where it is, and I think parking is going to ruin it. But if it could work, that might turn into something we can do, and it's even closer than the Max Fit Sports Center to me and Dr. Zirconium. So I think that if parking, I think if anything is going to happen, parking is going to ruin it.
Yeah.
And maybe the Glassboro, what do you call that? Where they come in. What was that?
Code enforcement.
Yeah, one of those type of organizations. They're always looking to nickel and dime everything you can, but they may have an issue with it too because they know there's parking. But if they think we can get it to work, I think that'll be great. And like I said, it's even closer than the Max Fit, and still on Delsey Drive.
That's awesome.
Technically, all right. Technically, it's still on Delsey Drive, but it's in between Delsey Drive and the Main Street, I guess it is. So it's in between two major roads in Glassboro, and the difference between them is about a parking lot distance. So,
Really?
Yeah, between the two streets.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant the two locations. Okay.
No, between the two streets, between Delsey Drive and the other street, it's basically like a parking lot. You just travel through a parking lot to get to the both streets. So both sides hit the building pretty easily. So that's be great for publicity, I think. But
well, cool. That's exciting news. I know that our pal DKM is on assignment working on things, and maybe he might have something to talk about in the upcoming future. I'm not entirely sure. I let you guys know my schedule for the next month, so make sure you're staying tuned to the Alliance blog to see lots of pictures, photos, and videos on all of our social media platforms as I dive into the world of pro wrestling, lucha libre, both here in the United States and in Mexico. It's kind of fun for me to do. And of course, we'll be back on Tuesday with the pre-party.
Pre-party.
That's kind of been the staple on the show ever since we started back in 2020 doing the pre-party. Actually, 2019 we started the pre-party. As far as the other Alliance guys go, guys, I know that there's a lot of questions about them. I don't have a lot of answers for you. I just believe that they're going to go on hiatus until they can figure out something a little bit better for them that works out.
Sharpening the pencil.
That's a great idea. You know, part of me kind of wants. Look. I love DKM and I want him to be a part of the Alliance Guys podcast forever. But if he's looking for something to do on Wednesdays, I think him and Dave Scooby chomping it up. You know, Devin and Dave sharpening the pencil. I think that might be a fun show. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying it would be an interesting idea. I want to thank you guys again for tuning in each and every Tuesday. More content's coming. Our shorts are back. We're producing more shorts daily.
Yeah, the weather's getting warm, so we got to wear some shorts.
Yeah, thanks. Shorts on the YouTube, shorts on Twitter, or not Twitter, on TikTok, still around. Of course, we also have a new T-shirt that's available in the shop. If you didn't see it before, it's here somewhere. This is the logo of it. That shirt's available for $15 on our shop. Merch link is in the bio. It's available in heather gray, black, red, ash, and navy blue. And then also the last thing is if you guys, if I can get rid of the logo here.
That looked very Captain America to navy blue on it.
You know, yeah, I think it would. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it kind of would. Let me see.
Or Spider-Man, maybe.
Yeah, maybe more Spider-Man. But anyways, the other thing is if you guys would like to help support your pal J Cal, make sure that if you're in need of a championship title belt or a replica for your fantasy baseball or your upcoming fantasy football league, check out TrophySmack.com and use the code The Alliance Blog. I think you save like 15% if you use that code. Also, Dubby, again, you save 15% when you use the code. Both those links are in the video description.
Make sure you add the codes too, because I've had that happen.
Thanks. But until next time, guys, we're going to see you at the matches. Thank you for being here, and have a good night.
Buy the shirts and add dawg YouTube.
Oh, yeah, and dawg YouTube. Make sure you add dawg on YouTube. Until then, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until